Thank you very much, Mont. Now, by that, we heard our distinguished speakers, the 5 of them. Very impressive. You have to remember that this is almost the whole spectrum. You have a planner in there, and they've been involved in planning massive projects. It so happened that I studied and then taught at the KFUBM. It's a very massive and impressive facade, really. And also 2 practitioners, cities that are there, in MODON, number of cities, as Dr. Tawfiq mentioned, and then in Jubail and Yanbu. And Jubail and Yanbu is really a success story. I remember when I was in college in the or late 70s, there was this headline in the Financial Times saying, "Let them dream." I mean, maybe someone thought that it will never happen. We'll never have Jubail and Yanbu, and then we'll never have Saudi Arabia as a key and major player in the petrochemical. Now the share, as you know, of Saudi Arabia in the commodity petrochemical is about 10% of the global trade. And as we heard this morning, SABIC is number 3 when it comes to the major petrochemical companies all over. And in addition to that, we heard from SAGIA and their efforts really to push the envelope and to promote our country and what's happening in there. Of course, you see, when we talk about infrastructure, it's always important, but infrastructure is not an end in its own right. It is a means toward an end, and we heard also today from Alcoa, leading manufacturing company, about their experience in Saudi Arabia, and that is our future excitement. What's going to happen in the mineral, in our efforts to diversify the economy? This is a story of about now 4 decades, more than 40 years. Saudi Arabia is trying to diversify its economy, in order not to be totally dependent on oil, as we heard this morning as well. So with that, what we can, we have a few minutes for your question and answer, and of course we'll get the answers from here. And already we have a question for Dr. Rabiah. Fadl.
Okay, should I read the question?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
I have a question here. It says, you spoke about and showed the incentive slide. Where can we find such incentives online, and who do we contact? First, you can get them right outside this door. We have a stand where you have a brochure that shows all of the incentives that are available for any manufacturing company. Also, our website, modon.gov.sa, also provide all of these incentives. So if you just step outside and you check MODON stands, you'll find all of our incentives there.
Okay. Dr. Mospeh, something?
No, this is for... Yes. If I could just paraphrase the question, basically it revolves around, in strategic partnerships, how does Alcoa go about protecting its intellectual property in terms of products, processes, new technologies? It's an excellent question, and to be perfectly honest, we have agreements in place. The lawyers have made a lot of money filtering and words, but it comes down to trust. And the people we have as our partners in MODON, we simply trust them. They're part of the family. Hopefully we're part of theirs. I look at Dr. DeBaz, I say these things because he helped us. We script a lot of these things. But there are a lot of other people outside the partnership. In terms of that, we're very, very protective of it. Alcoa is basically no better than the technologies it's used, the products it's developed, and the ones we're developing now. Most of the products out there in the aluminum industry were developed by Alcoa. Our future, the future for ourselves, for MODON, what we're doing in Saudi, and for us globally depends upon how we protect those, and we take great pains to do that.
Thank you. Please, Mon.
Okay, I'll take, this question is from someone in the audience who supplies precast concrete machinery, and the question revolves around, is precast one of the preferred building products and methods? That's also a good question, and my answer would be that it depends on the building type. Certainly, you're going to see a great deal, and do see a great deal of precast as a part of the built environment, not only in Kingdom but across the region. It makes sense on many fronts. I know to talk about CAUS for perhaps a moment, but when you think about the housing, the community side of the project, that's where you see a lot of precast included. One of the things that we've been challenged with, not only on that project, but on many others, is the inclusion and introduction of alternative building materials as well. The campus at CAUS used an extraordinary amount of terracotta as an example. So you're looking for similar performance requirements that also can reflect a cultural and historical context. The buildings need to look, the campus needs to look and feel like it's of the place, but it also needs to be modern. So back to the core of the question, certainly precast is a big part of the building material strategy in Kingdom, and then combining that with innovation on how to use those materials to meet the other goals that may be set by the client or by the project.
Okay, thank you. Mosleh, yeah, Dr. Mosleh, yeah, question for you.
That's
okay. Yeah, great.
Okay. The question here says, what are the government initiatives to attract foreign know-how and implement manufacturing in KSA? Who to talk to? As I mentioned, we have different incentives that are provided for manufacturing companies that I mentioned some of them, and some others are mentioned in our brochure, and also some others are available online. These different incentives are given to promote more manufacturing and more know-how to be provided in the Kingdom. Also, so we can ask some of these questions. Also, our colleagues in SAGIA have their own incentives to attract foreign investments to the Kingdom. And probably if you can just shed some light on what kind of incentives are given for foreign companies.
Thank you, Dr. Tawfiq. I think you've said it all. I mean, if I were to complement, there are various initiatives and incentives that are given out to investors coming in. The fact that we give national treatment to all investors allows us to give access to various funds in the Kingdom, be it the Saudi Industrial Fund, be it the Human Capital Investment Fund, the less developed regions. We've developed a very attractive and lucrative, almost a zero tax formula, of which you can apply for. If you train Saudis and you recruit Saudis, you can reach almost a tax-deductible payment in the human capital arena, and by just training and developing Saudis, you're almost reaching a zero tax formula. But the fact that Saudi Arabia is probably the seventh lowest tax country, there is no personal income tax. You can carry forward your losses indefinitely, and you're only taxed at profit. So this is the kind of various incentives. There's other incentives that are industrial incentives. We give up to, I think, 75%, up to 75% of soft loans for any industrial development in Saudi. So basically, the bankable proposition is available in Saudi with all these incentives.
Okay, thank you very much. We have, before giving the floor to Monte, we have a general question addressed to the panel, asking the panel to comment on the sustainability, as a large number of mega projects, infrastructure projects going on at the same time, and including establishing new cities from scratch, and the inquirer would like us to comment on solar energy, smart grid infrastructure, energy efficiency, and so on and so forth. So if you care just to bear with that, we'll have Monte comment, please, on that question and the question that you have also. And then each of the panelists will take a minute or so to say the final words, and then we'll close by that. Yes, Monte, please.
Well, the question about broader sustainability is a great question, and again, we could and probably should hold a forum on that discussion. Not only just the volume of work that we're talking about, the magnitude of development, but also you overlay that with the climatic issues, and it's an important element to look at. And so I think that it represents an opportunity for many folks to come to the table to help figure it out. You can look at it on a project-by-project basis. You know, you can make sure that you're designing the projects, as I mentioned, you know, towards LEED standards or BREEAM or other things. CALST also helped push folks in Kingdom to look at the Saudi version of the U.S. Green Building Council and begin to set and establish sustainability standards at sort of a building and site level. But the point about energy use certainly expands that conversation and illustrates the fact that it's not just about a simple strategy around a particular building or a particular campus. We like to sometimes joke that you could end up building here in this country probably a LEED silver McDonald's, but that doesn't mean that ultimately it's very sustainable, right? So how are we thinking about energy? How are we thinking about other things like transit? How folks are moving around? How do you begin to look at these alternative fuels? And I know, for instance, that one of the things that does is links back to academia and the research institutions across the kingdom. A lot of the research focused at CALST is on alternative energy. You're seeing that happen in the other Techno Valley projects around the country. So it's, we heard it from our colleagues on this panel, so it's site-specific, building-specific responses, looking at opportunities to not only develop technology that's affordable and can be readily available, but that then can be applied on a scale that can actually begin to have an impact. Because as the question implies, there's a lot of growth, a lot of development, and a lot of opportunity to get it wrong. So we need all of the sectors involved in that conversation, from energy to design to construction, engineering, et cetera, to be around the table to help solve for that. The other question that I have, and then I'll pass it along to my colleagues to address this question of sustainability, but there was a question about how did we coordinate policy and resources at CALST to move that project along on such a fast track. And I think there were a couple of things that were in place that really made a difference in the very beginning. One is that the decision was made that project was going to be led and managed by Aramco. There obviously is an enormous amount of trust in that organization to take on a project of this magnitude, and they have a proven track record of doing it all over the kingdom and all over the world, and then to not only take one on this magnitude, but to push it forward on such a fast schedule. Another interesting detail of that project was that our contract was essentially with Aramco Services out of Houston, Texas. So that was set forth in the very beginning to help streamline any potential complications, if you will, that could have arisen with payment and contracting and other things on the logistics side. And then internally, we organized the project around key locations where design work was being done, and then the Aramco client put their people in our office. So we had Aramco partners and clients in Toronto, in Houston, in St. Louis, working with our team on a day-to-day basis. And then we had key project meetings in London, and as the construction moved forward in Paris and other places, so that it really became a very global and a very mobile delivery team. We put in place Cisco telepresence technology to help communicate and to have virtual meetings. So everything from the organizational strategy for the project to the contracting and then to the delivery and team organizational and technology side, we really had to, in many cases, reinvent how we were delivering the work.
Thank you very much. Dr. Rabiah.
Okay.
A minute, please. 1 minute.
Okay. I'll just answer this question. How are the issues of quality and safety in the built environment being dealt with? Codes and standards enforcement is the responsibility of whom? First, we always care about building codes. We always review all drawings before building any building. We have our own codes. Also, there are standard codes that are specified by the Saudi Standard Organization, SASO. We always supervise these codes to be implemented properly. And we also work on the safety and the environment to make sure these manufacturing companies are compliant with the safety regulations, and also they comply with the environmental codes. So in our case, MODON cares about the infrastructure and the codes of the building. We have also the presidency of environment, which looks after the environmental codes. All of these different entities work in different parts of the environment, safety, and building codes.
Thank you. Dr. Mospeh, Al-Otaibi.
Just I would like to say that Saudi Arabia nowadays, it has unlimited business opportunities are open in every single items that we have, education, health, whatever, construction. But also we are looking for high quality work. I think this question, which had been answered by Dr. Rabiah, it's very important since we have really standardization. And it's a matter that you have a standardization for our coding. It's a matter how to implement that in Saudi Arabia. Nowadays, we don't have to have any, mistakes in the construction, because this is the future of the new generation, future of the country, and also it's a future for the whole people around the country, around the world. So we really, in Royal Commission, we are doing our best in environmental issue and safety, and also in construction based on the high quality standard. And I think we are talking here in general, but I think it will be get better for anybody to have a chance to visit and see and communicate with the right people who really could provide him with the right answer for the business that he would like to be enrolled in. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kenneth Wisnocki, please.
Yes, the discussion we just had relative to what we are doing with MODON and building an aluminum industry is really only the beginning. So many downstream businesses will flow from this. The tremendous pool of opportunity that will be there for future generations because of what's being done here is immeasurable at this point. So we look forward to having, when we speak of sustainability, 100% recyclable product, one that is lightweight and durable, one that will speak well to energy savings because of those factors. It's going to be a tremendous benefit to Saudi and to the world. It's just the beginning.
Thank you. Mr. Ahmed Osilan.
Yes. On the topic of sustainability, I think Saudi Arabia, as of yesterday, was underrepresented and underindexed in various sectors. So that basically that projects the opportunity, and the concept of build it, they will come is not evident in Saudi. In fact, everything in Saudi is built on a demand base. So it is actually demand driven. And most of what we've shared with you today is on a sustainable version because it correlates with our core competitive advantages and our core strength areas of natural resource and geographic location and various value chain opportunities. So effectively, this is, I think, the core driver behind sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you, Ahmed. Now, on your behalf, I would like to thank our speakers, Mr. Ahmed Osilan from SAGIA, Mr. Kenneth Wisnocki from Alcoa, Dr. Mospeh Al-Otaibi from the Royal Commission of Jubail and Yambu in Jubail, Dr. Tawfiq Al-Rabiah from the Saudi Industrial Property Authority, MODON, and last but not least, Mr. Monte Wilson from HOK, and thank you all for being here with us. Thank you. Thank you. أهلا وسهلا.